Okay, we're recording on this computer. All right, we're here. I just did a quick run through the workbook. If you're reading this, watching this on the replay, go ahead and reach out to me directly, and I can walk you through anything that we talked about in the workbook again. I dealt with a couple of questions that it showed up on this week, and maybe we'll talk about them again in the Q&A. But we're starting the recording now. Gulliver's Adventures and Where Do Our Worlds Live, those both got taken care of. Okay, like I mentioned before we start the call, all this work that we're doing is to get our subconscious in check. Last week we talked about your conscious mind and how it wanted quality. It wants to go after things that it's shiny, that it really likes, that it thinks it's cool. Your subconscious wants to survive, and it wants quantity. It wants the same thing over and over and over. And two tend to be in conflict, and everything that we do, from the polarity maps to the 3-2-1 to even creating these like big goals for the future, are to sort of train the subconscious into letting the conscious mind kind of run the show, so that you can live the cool quality lives that you all think that you're capable of. It's very smart. This is a very important thing that you have to remember. Your subconscious is just as smart as you are. It's seen everything that you've seen. It's actually remembered more things than you probably remember. And it plays dirty. It's not particularly nice person. Like whatever you think about your morality that shows up in your conscious awareness, your subconscious is meaner, less moral. It has its own rule set. So again, we're really going to have to understand it in all of its different forms to get it on our side. And our main weapons, like I said, are going to be the 3-2-1 and the polarity map. I like to think of the 3-2-1 as the random Pokemon encounters when you're in the wild. Again, sorry if you've never played any of these games, but for people who have, this will really connect. In Pokemon, there's wild grass that you can walk around in, and Pokemon randomly show up. And you don't know who's going to show up until you get there. You just sort of hear some music playing, and then you're fighting it. The 3-2-1 is that ability to sort of recognize an internal charge and go, oh, I feel really gross about this, or I realize that I'm being held back, and I realize that I just really don't like that person, or I'm really charged against doing this activity. That's your random Pokemon encounter. And the 3-2-1 is the process of kind of even discovering what it is, what it needs, what problem it's bringing into your awareness, and how to solve for that. Sometimes doing a 3-2-1, that's it. You'd fight it. You learn what you need to learn, and that's it. For things that show up multiple times, or for very specific 3-2-1s, you might want to convert that into what will be a non-player character. And that's almost like catching a Pokemon. Like you kind of stick it in the Pokeball and you give it a job to do. And we'll deal with that in later weeks on how to interact with those characters that you develop out of a 3-2-1. And like we said before, the polarity map fuels the world. It's the engine. If you want to imagine like a double helix in the DNA, that's kind of a visualization of polarities moving upwards and moving downwards into infinity. So when a polarity is integrated healthily, things grow. When it's disintegrated, things dissolve. And that worlds tend to exist in the dynamic tension between the two. So when you find that you are living a dynamic tension in a way that feels unpleasant, you've probably found a really good place to potentially build a world or add a polarity to an existing world that you're developing. Again, that's delving into the why a little bit. But here's what we're really gonna do. So you can pull out your pen and paper real quick, and I'm gonna kind of play full out by putting some of my own values in here. But first, we want to think about the values that made you who you are today. Like when you imagine that your life right now, these are the values that are like, okay, right, for example, me, I'm living in Flint, Michigan in December 2019, and here are the values across my entire life that sort of have gotten me here. Efficiency is one of them. Community. Oh, that's not good. I want to shrink that. Efficiency, community, learning, development. Let me actually just get a different thing for this. So write these down, write 15 to 20, just like fast track as much as you want. And I'm just gonna do this along with you to sort of fill the space. Community, development, learning. I really care about laughter. I really care about honor, creativity. Looks like we've got, oh, Maya's here. Hello, hello, Maya. Right now, just to catch Maya up, we are writing down 15 to 20 values that made it so that you live, that made your life right now, things that you value really quick. These are sort of going to be our base values. And then we're going to do the same thing for the values in for our 10-year self, if you got a chance to listen to the video. So I did this a few days ago. Might have even written these down. Oh, great. I did do this. Okay. And then we're going to say intelligence. I really like kindness. I really like achievement, care. What else has sort of gotten me here? Innovation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, this might get sort of tricky, especially as you start getting to that 15 to 20, but we really want to stretch our minds as much as you can. That's stretching the creativity muscle. I'm going to say growth, and then speed and spontaneity. I don't know if that's how you spell that. Aesthetics and style. Okay, so I don't know if you guys are done, but that's what we'll have. And then what we'll do is we'll take our top 5 and then we'll rank them. So again, this is a left brain process to kind of force you to tell yourself what you care about. So if I could only pick 5 of these, I'm going to say it's learning. I'm going to say it is aesthetics. I want honor. This is where it's going to get a little hard. Growth and innovation. Okay. Now, if you're freaking out about getting this right, know that I've done this a few times and I've never once gotten the same set of values. This is, again, more just to signal your brain that, like, we're thinking about this and we care about this and we need to get a right answer, and it's just going to kind of force you to reflect things about yourself that matter. You're not going to be stuck with these forever. We're dynamic people. This is just what's popping out on Thursday, December 12th. So once you rank those, just keep those there. We're going to say these are values A. Next, we're going to work on values B, and we're going to do the exact same thing. So go ahead and hit me a Go ahead and give me like a thumbs up, an okay, a yes if you are good with values A. I'm going to go ahead and move on to values B. It's the same thing, but I just want to make sure that, you know, we've got enough time. If you need more time, this is something that you can do on your own. It's not necessary that you figure it out here, but it's good. So values B is get back into that 10-year self. And so real quick, I'll do a closed eye process. Go ahead and take a deep breath. And as you take your deep breath, sort of imagine that you're in the positive feeling of already having your 10-year self. Now, it's been a week since you spent time with this person. Know that it's probably a little dusty. You spent maybe an hour of your life thinking about your 10-year self, and you spent, you know, the rest of your life not thinking about it. So whatever you come up with, what would you need to think about to make that feeling double? And what would you need to hear inside of your mind to make that feeling double again? And who would you need to see to make that feeling increase a little bit more? And even as you feel like maybe you're not able to do it, what's a smell that could come up that would make that feeling go up even a little bit higher? And so now you're there. Go ahead and imagine that mirror. you're seeing your 10-year self, you're seeing them in front of you. And when you hear my finger sort of snap, you're going to feel into that person. You're going to breathe the air through their lungs. You're going to feel their muscles as your muscles. 3, 2, 1. And the question now is, now that you're this person, you've achieved everything that this person has achieved. You're living the life that this person is able to feel into this feeling. What values would you have to aspire to that could get this reality for you? And for me, my first values are going to be, hold on, I'm just going to answer a few questions here. Okay, so one of the, ironically, one of the things that shows up for me with values B in my 10-year self is serenity. By the time that I've gotten there, I feel like I will just slow down as a human person. The other thing that emerged for me that is sort of new in the 10-year self is freedom, fun. This person is more focused. This person also cares about community. They care. This one's this one's going to be a little bit harder because you have to imagine being someone that you're not. But this person also cares about really ease. It's just a chill. It's a good time having there. I think aesthetics have sort of changed to beauty for this person. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we'll sort of squeeze 3 more. This one's going to be, again, a little harder, so we'll only do 10 for this one. Harmony. And maybe one more that would be good is going to be, relationship. Okay. And again, at whatever speed that you are able to do, again, you can go back to this, but we'll go ahead and have you rank them one more time. And so I think that fun could be number 1. I think harmony, number 2. Freedom, number 3. Community, and ease. So what you'll find is that when you look at these separate values, that 2 distinct people are sort of going to emerge from this. Eventually, they're going to be integrated into your entire self. But when I look at this learning, aesthetics, honor, growth, innovation person, I see a younger person. I see someone with a little bit more fire in themselves, someone who has something to prove. Whereas when I see myself in 10 years, a lot more relaxed kind of a person. They have fun. There's a sort of sense of peace and harmony, freedom, living in community, and a sense of ease. So ultimately, the largest version of the story that we're going to be telling with our lives from this moment forward, as long as you do the process, is going to be the transition from value state A to value state B. And as you're thinking about filling out your workbook and creating adventures for yourself and setting new goals, it's good to have these values in the back of your mind, so that as you're building new experiences for yourself, as you're thinking of things to learn, you can also think about what is like for me, something that I would think about is, what's a fun way to accomplish this goal? If I'm going to eventually need to embody these values as my 10-year self, like maybe I shouldn't be going after the most aesthetic thing. Maybe I should be looking for something with harmony. And so that can be a nice North Star. The reason we do both, though, is that you are this first person, and your goal isn't to deny that. Your subconscious will scream, it will fight, It will hate you if you try to change the values that it already has. But now that you have this 10-year self, you have a choice. So every time that you get to show up to a new challenge, to a new environment, maybe just to the same environments that you've seen, you get to have a choice. You can choose to operate at a values A, you can choose to operate at values B, and you can do that based on what's going to be most effective at the time. So now that we've done values, we're going to, actually, I'm going to sneak one in here. I want to do an exercise. I'm going to do some anchoring. Anchoring is really great. Anchoring is an NLP technique, neuro-linguistic programming, where you can take an emotional state and sort of literally put it on your body. So for example, like you can take an emotional state, put it on your finger, and feel into that state. You put it on a place that you don't normally touch. I think for most people, sort of putting their right hand on their left arm will be a good anchor, but you can use, say, any of your knuckles. I've got anchors left, right, fourth. So we're going to go through that values exercise again. And what essentially we're going to do is we're going to anchor the positive feelings that we already have associated with our first set of values. Maybe do that with our right hand, our dominant hand. And then we're going to go ahead and anchor the set of feelings that emerge from those values on our left hand. And again, you can choose wherever. If you don't want to make the decision for the left hand, just do like this. It's good because it signifies new. You'll constantly be reminding yourself, unless you're a left-handed person, that you're doing a new thing. And for the right hand, I find one that's pretty easy is just like the thumb right here. And this is a very powerful technique. Again, we're going to demonstrate it. We're going to test it. We're going to make sure they're really hit solid, because you'll be able to use these when you're waking up in the morning and not wanting to do your daily 3-2-1s, or you're not wanting to do your daily plan. You can anchor yourself into that feeling and remind yourself, oh yeah, this is why I'm doing this. So yeah, Spike says, can't see where you're touching. You can touch anywhere. Like the thing that I sort of described is here. The idea is that you just touch somewhere that you don't normally do. This is kind of it's a personal decision. So whichever one's most useful for you. Yeah, Jojo, you want to put that in the chat for everyone?
Texting is like not an easy thing for me to be doing with the current interface I have. That's why that one came out so jumbled.
Gotcha.
I could jump on like a Facebook chat if that makes it easier.
Oh, no, this is good. This
chat with you. So what I'm trying to ask is, so I touched my hands a lot. How important is it that we're touching somewhere that we don't usually touch? Should I change limbs?
Oh,
like touch my ear or something? Like,
so you can. I've got a very specific anchor that I put behind my ear. Literally anywhere on your body is good.
Thank you.
As loose benefit, not loose, as a loose guideline. If you're gonna need to use this anchor a lot, maybe don't put it someplace that's like really awkward. But that's really the only guideline. You want it to be someplace that you can access.
Great.
Regularly.
Now that you've clarified that, can you just go over again the right and left and the dominant and which values we're associating with which, please? Yeah.
So again, so long as you remember it, that's all that matters. But what can be really useful is, because most people are not left-hand dominant. Anything that you learn that's new, by anchoring it to your left hand, it's kind of a signal to your brain, oh, we're doing some new stuff. And then if you want to anchor your old values to your right, again, it could be right wrist, right hand, or right side of your body. Just the idea is that like right is normal, left is weird. Now, I'm only doing that because most of us are coded that way. That's not necessarily the truth. If you feel like left is normal and right is weird, that's totally chill. The idea is that most of us are already living in that polarity, and that by putting your anchors in alignment with that polarity, again, it'll train your subconscious like, oh yeah, this is new and this is something that we're working on. So we're gonna go back to that value sheet. And again, I'm going to do another closed eye process. And what we're going to do is talk through really the upsides of the values that you have. So we're going to start with values A, which is going to be, again, a sort of anchor on your right side. And I'll tell you when to apply your anchor. So go ahead and close your eyes and think about all of the great things in your life that have emerged from your original set of values. These are the values that you picked up while you were a kid, and so they're the values that got you every positive experience that you had with your friends. These are the values that got you to your first kiss. These are the values that helped you graduate high school if you graduated high school. These are the values that got you to show up at 8 p.m. on December 12th. These are the values that helped you find out what your favorite movie was. These are the same values that helped you to overcome every challenge that you have accomplished right now. So in that spirit of gratitude, I just want you to feel into the feeling of all the positive things that have sort of come out of your life, getting these values. It's a very comfortable feeling, very cozy, comfortable feeling, almost like putting on your favorite sweater. And as that feeling rises, it starts getting a little bit more intense, go ahead and place your anchor. And as you place that anchor at that top of that feeling, go ahead and answer the question, what would you need to imagine to have this feeling get more intense? Maybe it's something that's even more cozy or more comfortable. Maybe it's a memory of when those values really helped you out. Maybe it's you see someone who embodies those values flash into your mind. Whatever you need to do to make that feeling more intense. And if you feel like you can maybe make it even a little bit more intense, go ahead and think about what sounds you need to hear, what soundtrack connects to these values. If you're feeling like your feeling can't get more intense, go ahead and take the anchor off. It's really key that we set an anchor while the feeling is rising. But again, if you feel like you can maybe get that feeling a little bit higher, go ahead and think about the time in your life where you're really just feeling like you're most yourself and you're at your best. That's probably the time when all those values were operating on all cylinders. And when you reach the peak of that feeling, go ahead and set that anchor. Now we'll go ahead and release our anchors. Go ahead and open your eyes. All right, now go ahead and everyone just think about the alphabet backwards. So Z, Y, X, W, V, U, T, S, R, P, Q, O, I don't know how that goes. That's just a sort of detox experience that you can do to make sure that you that you're not stuck in that emotion. Again, we only want it as an anchor, so that should have taken us out of it a little bit. To test if your anchor has been applied, just right now, go ahead and touch that part of your body on your right side or wherever it is you set your anchor and see if you can feel into that feeling. And go ahead and hit in the chat box if you can. Jojo, go ahead and raise your hand. If once you've felt into that feeling, that'll let you know if it's set. In the Q&A section, let me know if you have any trouble with that. I can answer some questions on anchors because sometimes your subconscious will resist that. But for the most part, good job. For the most part, it's pretty almost magical how good a job it can do. Excellent, excellent. So that's setting an anchor. So now we're going to, again, go back into that 10-year self. And we're going to think and we're going to feel into those new values that we're going to establish. Okay. Daniel, you might be like me. I struggled with value anchors at first, and so I can connect with you one-on-one and do the exercise because once you crack it, it's really cool. And sometimes it can be a little bit slower to sort of pick up. And you might be one of those lucky people who are already feeling connected to their values all the time. So especially for the ones you already have, it won't necessarily be as intense. But sometimes people have really good values and they don't even get to feel those all the time. So that's why I think anchoring existing values can be useful. But we'll keep going with our new values. All right, so for the new set of values, again, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna float back to that mirror in our 10-year self, and we're gonna imagine what it would feel like to already have those values. And we're gonna just imagine, like, okay, for me, I'm imagining like what would it be like if everything is already having that feeling of fun and harmony and freedom and community and ease. Again, these are just mine. You can imagine what yours are. And again, just like with that other setting, we're going to think, what do we need to see happen? And what memories have we already had that have been in alignment with our values, that may these new values that maybe we never paid too much attention to because we were too busy focusing on the other values. Just bring those memories to mind. And as we try to double that feeling, what would we need to hear that would be in alignment with those values? Maybe it's a soundtrack, or it's a clip from a movie, or maybe it's just someone that we know that really already embodies those values, and we hear those in our mind. And then what would we need to smell that we can really associate with those values, that can really take that feeling to the next level? And again, the second that you feel your emotions sort of going up, go ahead and place that anchor. And the entire time that it's rising, go ahead and keep your hand there. We're going to keep and push it a little bit more. Imagine that you can imagine having that feeling be twice as good as it is right now, it's twice as intense. This is a good trick if you're ever struggling to imagine a feeling, is just taking another step back and imagining what it would look like to watch someone have this experience, and then take that experience on from themselves. And as we double it one more time, imagine the person that embodies all of those values. They don't have to be you. They can be just someone totally separate, and you can see that they're living them. And just go ahead and step into what it might feel like to be that person. And as that feeling increases, go ahead and take your anchor off. Okay, you guys want to hear a joke? What? Oh, this is bad. I don't have a good joke. Uh, oh, what happens when the this is bad. I forgot every joke. Okay, that should be good enough. No, I'm gonna nail this one. What type of pants do the Super Mario wear? Denim, denim, denim. Okay, I did it. I remembered one joke that I had. Again, we're just creating a separate space so that we can get back into our normal self. And to test that anchor, go ahead and put your hand where that is, and you'll see that you're connected back into that feeling. Now, what's cool about anchors is that anytime that you're doing work that needs to be in alignment with that 10-year self, you can just slap that anchor on and it'll ease you into that feeling. Again, we're training our brain that it's safe. Over time, when you've connected to that feeling enough, your subconscious will associate that feeling with how it should normally be, and it won't resist you moving in these different spaces all of those times. So that's just a nice trick that'll help you with the sort of the next week of work. And it's definitely something that you can put on when you're experiencing resistance. Usually resistance is you saying, this feels bad and this feels scary and I don't want to do anything with it. When you put those anchors on, it'll remind you why you're doing what you're doing. As promised, we're now gonna do a 3-2-1, and we're gonna do a 3-2-1 based on something that I'm certain all of us struggle with in some capacity, just so you can kind of see how powerful it is. And I'm just gonna do one myself because these are kind of personal, so it's gonna be really hard. You can play along at home and do your own 3-2-1, but I'm just gonna blow through one of my own and just kind of show you what the process sort of can look like. So for me, I'm gonna work on procrastination because we all can be amazing procrastinators. So for the third stage, this will be taking that part of yourself as an object. So for me, I'm gonna take the part of myself that procrastinated in high school. So there's a part of me that is a procrastinator. They are always turning in assignments late. We don't want to do what other people say because they don't. Authority figures listen to them. You get this group chat out of the way. Listen to them. They have dreadlocks. It's good to put visuals in there. And fiery glasses. They have a huge backpack filled with, oh my God, you're seeing how bad a typer I am. With heavy books. They are scared a lot of the time and socially awkward. So in this case, I used a specific memory of myself. Is that how you spell awkward? Does awkward really look that awkward when you spell it? That's hilarious. I use a specific memory of myself because that one just comes to mind. So when you're using parts of yourself, sometimes an image of yourself will show up. Sometimes it's someone else. Sometimes it's an amorphous part that you don't know, and the writing it out is actually the time that you sort of figure it out. Who, what, when, where, why questions are really good for this part of you. And again, as much as you can bring in visual, you can even start bringing in what you think it is they're feeling. Like if this was a book, this is the third person narrator. So it can get pretty in depth into what's going on in this space. I won't bore you with the details of how annoyed I was at myself and the world when I was a teen, but this brings those memories to the forefront. And so that's the third person. That's the 3 of the 3, 2, 1. The 2 is now where you'll dialogue with this. And you can do it one of 2 ways. You can freeform it, or you can use the questions that I've sort of established in the workbook. I like these questions because they're really good at kind of bringing out whatever the underlying issues were going on with this dissociated part. But there have been times where the free form is exactly what I needed, and it's just me going back and forth with this part, really trying to understand it. So kind of let the part decide. But as we're growing and developing like our skills of introspection, starting with a framework can be really useful. I'm actually going to introduce 6 questions that are actually a little bit separate from the ones I put in the workbook. I'll add these as a variant that you can use, but these are some really powerful questions that you can just ask yourself whenever you're trying to figure out what you want to do next in your life. So the first question is, what do you want to create? And this is me as me, Wendell. Looks like we got a chat going in. Oh, how did I choose procrastination? I chose that because it's just a common issue. Like you can do a 3, 2, 1 on pretty much anything that you can think of. Kind of knowing where the process ends, and because it's something that a lot of us sort of deal with, I just chose it because watching someone do it kind of can give you a little bit of the bystander effect. And just to know that like you can do it on pretty much any concept. You can use it for self-sabotage. I mean, pretty much the sky's the limit. I just chose procrastination because I want you to do your homework. If you do a 3, 2, 1 on procrastination every time you want to procrastinate, it's a good loop that will keep you doing stuff. So the first question is, what do you want to create? And so from the point of view of my, I guess, high school self, what I want to create, I want to create a world where there is no homework and no teachers. People just leave me alone to do whatever I want. The second question is, how would it feel to live in that world? And then again, this is from the position of my high school self. It would feel light and free and fun and exciting and empowering. and again, you can write exactly the words that you feel there. Again, this is really just for you. Oh, I don't know why I did the question mark. Ignore the question mark in the chat. That was me trying to fill in the question mark after what do you want to create. Yeah, so it feel light and free, fun, exciting, and empowering. And it's already interesting for me to see like, shoot, some of my future values have already existed in this part of me that was dissociated. The next question then is, what is your life like right now? And we ask this question so that we can get from their own mouth how they feel about their life. It's really annoying. I feel trapped by circumstance and that no one really understands me or my needs. He wasn't full on emo, but he really liked Ben Folds, so you can kind of get a glimpse on what this dude was about. Really into theater as well. Then how does it feel to live here? Feels boring and unexciting, and I'm just waiting for it to be over. And then the next question is the big one, because now that you sort of know what this person wants and what they're trying to feel and where they feel stuck, the next question is, what would you have to believe to feel these things? Another way that you can phrase that question is, what would you need to believe to continue to be in this world? And the first thing that emerges is that everyone is out to get me. I don't have control over my life. It's everyone else's job to be entertaining. Rules are stupid. And I don't trust other people. And this can be a very powerful question because immediately you start seeing those beliefs from this dissociated part, and at least a few of them you might still have attachments to. I've had a lot of feelings of not having control over my life, and to know that like, oh yeah, I see how that part running amok with that belief could keep me stuck in that space. And then this is opportunity to say like, what judgments do you have towards that vision of the future? Only cool kids get to have freedom. Only people with money can make their own decisions. Adults aren't good stewards of power. Okay, and so that just kind of opens up like a lot of stuff. Then you can shift into those second set of questions that I established in the document, which is, what's the problem? And sometimes the problem will be different than what you thought it might be. Like for the most part, I used to do it with, what's the problem? How do you know it's a problem, etc. And I've been playing around with these new questions, and they've kind of sometimes reframed my problem. Like in another life, I would have said the problem is, everyone's trying to control me. No, the problem is, I don't think I have agency is the real problem. How do you know that's a problem? And really the only answer at this point is, it just feels like it. I don't have the feelings I want. And this is another powerful question to reframe. What's not a problem? And for me back then, friends. I have a lot of really great and amazing friends. And then again, to really cement this question, what would you have to focus on to forget this isn't a problem? I have to focus on what I don't have. I have to focus on how people aren't treating me the way I want. I have to focus on scarcity of freedom. And again, then you get a choice to say, okay, maybe I don't focus on those things so much and the problem might just go away. Next question is, what haven't you done to resolve the problem? And, you know, back in the day, it's, I haven't told anyone. I was just kind of mad and not saying anything. Increase the set of options I haven't been gracious, I haven't figured out other people have solved this. And then your brain starts moving into possibility mode where it's like, yeah, this sucks, but I guess I didn't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it puts you in kind of more of a useful problem solving mode. And then what is the cause of the problem? For me, in this case, it was self-absorption and control issues. Now, this problem still could be someone else's problem. Just in this case, it was mine. But having done through this work, you become a little bit more clear on, oh yeah, I guess it was this. Really, if I want to put the blame on someone else, I still can do poor American education system. But at the end of the day, like, they're happy people in that system, so it's still probably falling to me. Could you do to solve this problem? And here's the power of doing 3, 2, 1 on something in the past. Isn't anything I can do, the problem is already gone. And that's just the admission of like, yeah, this is over. I could keep fighting this battle, or I can let it go. If it's hard for me to let that go, or if I still feel that feeling in the present, I can talk about the things that I might do now, which is going to be to learn new ways to find engagement in my current circumstances. I can tell you what, if I'd had this process when I was a teenager, I wouldn't have had any of these issues. I'd be like, okay, I'm mad, but let me do some 3, 2, 1s on everything. And then the last category is to speak. So that was 2. That's the dialogue. The questions are me asking those questions to myself back and forth. And then the last part of the dialogue is speaking from this person's perspective. Again, real quick, and then this will be the last thing we do, and we'll do a quick closed eye process to end the session. And then we'll do a Q&A for whoever wants to stick around. And that'll be recorded, so on the record, if you've got to leave, you'll still be able to see those questions get answered. I like to sneak a polarity map into the 3, 2, 1, because they kind of work together in a nice way. You don't have to do this. This is extra, but I just wanted to show you how you could. So the downside of my original problem, if it kept continuing, unengaged, bored, act out to get attention. So this is the part of the polarity map where you're just going through, like, what are all the negative outcomes that could happen from dealing with this feeling or dealing with a problem that starts to emerge. Again, I usually stick with 4 to get attention, and really it's not live up to my potential is the big issue, at least when I was a kid. Then you shift to this upper right category, and you start looking at, like, well, what world would need to exist, or what perspective would need to exist that would make all of these downsides not happening? Well, I'd need a really engaging environment. No worries, Alan. Tell everyone playing Blades hi, especially Cole. Alan's gonna go play some role-playing games. He's living the dream. So an engaging environment would balance against me being unengaged in a world. Let's say if I was bored, lots of opportunities, balance against that. Acting out to get attention, well, it'd probably be a world in which I got individual attention. And then the last one would be not living up to my potential. Let's say going after meaningful goals. If I'd had all of these things in this upper left category, I would not have to worry about any of the fears or the negative stuff from the bottom category. But like in all polarity maps, there are downsides to any upsides. So if my environment was too engaging, I might be overstimulated. If I had lots of opportunities, I might not know which options to choose. Indecision. If I got too much individual attention, I could feel smothered. And if I'm constantly going after meaningful goals, for me, it always bottoms out at burnout. It feels just too exhausting to go after all those goals all the time. And so now I need to build a world or a perspective that can solve for these downsides. Overstimulated, well, I'd want a calming environment. Not knowing what options to choose, simple choices. Smothered, I'd say healthy detachment. And then burnout is sort of taken care of by a slow pace. And then in doing this from the perspective of that part of me that emerged in the beginning of the 3-2-1, I can sort of seeing like, yeah, those kind of were the polarities of that environment back then. What I was seeing as boring and unengaging and forcing me to act out to get attention and not living up to my potential were probably design traits for a school in Kansas in 2006 to 2009. Like they wanted it to be calming and having simple choices and a healthy detachment between teachers and students and a slow pace to make sure that everyone was learning. All probably good things, but that I couldn't see from my particular perspective. And what's good about the polarity map too is that it can kind of give you a structured way to do the first person perspective, because now I just get to tell a story. Once upon a time, I was feeling unengaged and bored, and I acted out to get attention. And I found myself not living up to my potential. That's what you'll usually do in the second quadrant, this upper right quadrant, is you'll start kind of talking about like your desires. Like, here's how you tried to solve for this. I wanted to live in an engaging environment with lots of opportunities and a ton of individual attention, pursuing meaningful goals, but I was afraid, which usually was what happens and why we don't ever commit to moving into the other polarity. I was afraid of being overstimulated and not knowing which option to choose, and that I'd be smothered by attention, and constantly working would lead to burnout. And so you find yourself sort of weirdly appreciating that original polarity that you kept trying to escape from. So I resigned myself to the calming environment of school with its simple choices and healthy attachment and slow pace. And that is the polarity map. Again, it goes much quicker when you're doing it. Another polarity map. This is the 3-2-1. When you're doing it yourself, and what you start seeing is a very strong, unpacked thing based on what was originally procrastination. When I put that back together, I now have an insight about my relationship to procrastination is, oh, I don't want to do that stuff because there's something else that I want to do that I'm not being able to get access to. And so now when I look at my procrastination patterns, I can ask myself really quickly, is this because I'm not getting the level of engagement that I want? Or is this because I'm holding on to a feeling that the world should be a certain way? It gives me a new angle to sort of engage with that. Now, you might find that when you do your procrastination and do 3, 2, 1s on procrastination, new things will emerge because all of our concepts have so many different spider legs sort of attaching to them. And so 3, 2, 1's a really good way to knock out a piece of that. But over time, to truly understand all sides, all facets, like you'll have to show up every single day, which is why it's a part of the strong start of every single day. I'm going to stop us there because that's a lot to deal with. Now that you've got a cool, great breakdown of what 3, 2, 1 looks like and how it can be used, I really just want you to play around with that. So your homework is going to be do a 3, 2, 1 every day. Do it the first thing. Sometimes it's really fun to do it off of what happened to you in a dream. If you find that you don't have a specific thing that you want to do a 3, 2, 1 on, hilariously, you could do it on not wanting to do 3, 2, 1 or feeling confusion around 3, 2, 1. But most easily, the easiest one to do if you were to create a daily practice is whatever negative feelings emerge when you think about how far away your 10-year goal is, because that's going to be the biggest piece of resistance that most of us will have to overcome is, it looks really great. I've got my awesome anchors all set, but it's so far and it's so different from my reality. That sucks. I don't want to do it. And doing 3, 2, 1s on that feeling mixed with anchors is a really good way to unburden yourself from all of that. So real quick, so that we can let people who've got to jet away go, I want to do another closed eye process, specifically on that feeling that I just described. And so we're going to ask you those 6 unpacking questions. We're going to sort of connect to a feeling. We're going to do this closed eye process, and then we're going to open it up to questions. And so after the closed eye, you can leave. It should take about like 10 minutes or so. Okay. So the first thing I want to ask you is, what do you want to create? And so what you want to create for all of us right now is going to be that life of that 10-year self. And my next question will be, how does it feel to already have that? And if you can bring that into your mind easily, that's awesome. If you need a little bit of help, go ahead and apply that anchor. And that'll tell you exactly what it feels like, at least in your mind right now, to have that. And then the next question is, what is life like right now? And not necessarily right this second, but over the last week or the last month or the last year or whatever you conceive of your current reality. What does that feel like right now? And how does it feel to live in that reality? Maybe it's tough. Maybe it's not super fun. Maybe it's totally fine. But it's probably a little bit different than that sort of playful, light feeling that you imagine from your 10-year self. And then real quick, you don't have to say this out loud, just think it in your head. What would you have to believe right now that would keep you stuck in these current feelings? See what sort of pops up in your mind. Just kind of let those go by. Sort of a amused detachment, like, oh yeah, I guess I believe that. Yeah, I could see how that would be a thing. And then start thinking about what kind of judgment emerges for the people that have that goal. People that maybe already have that life. Like, how do you judge them? And then the last thing I'm going to ask you before we go into the process is this connected to the feeling of maybe you feel like you're unworthy for that 10-year goal? Maybe you feel like you're not enough, that you need to learn more things, you need to get better before you can earn that. Maybe you feel like you don't belong in the group of people that live that life. Maybe you're worried that you're not perfect and so you don't deserve to get that. Maybe you feel that you're insignificant and your insignificance mean that you don't go there. Just see whichever one connects, which one hits home the most. And maybe you just feel you don't have the capacity to get there. Whichever one of those feelings connected to you the most, I want you to now sort of age yourself down. Go ahead and look in that mirror and age yourself down to the first time that you felt that feeling. Now, you don't have to remember it directly. You can actually just go ahead and make it up. But what would be a meaningful first time that you would have felt that feeling of either being not enough or imperfect or not deserving or insignificant? Just go ahead and feel into that. And whatever age that is, you find yourself immediately teleported into an old-timey movie theater. You're sitting in the center row, center column, center row, looking at the video of this memory. As you look at it, again, this can maybe be an actual memory that you've seen before. Maybe this is just something that you're making up right now, just some sort of story that you're using to conceptualize the first time that you had that feeling. It's okay if you don't see it too clearly. Your subconscious is taking care of most of this for you. But as you're watching the movie on the big, big screen, especially considering how small you are right now, you immediately see yourself teleported into the movie. And through the eyes of that character, you're traveling through the movie. You're seeing everyone, you're experiencing things, you're hearing sounds, smelling smells, seeing sights. What other characters are a part of this story, and how do they relate to you? What do you think they're feeling? And as we're nearing the end of this story, it's about to end with you feeling that negative feeling. But as soon as it gets there, as soon as you feel it the first time, the entire screen whites out. Just whatever picture is playing totally whites out. And you find yourself teleported to the projector room in this old movie theater, where now you're seeing the movie from the point of view of the projector that's projecting the movie onto the screen. And you play that movie back again. The beginning happens, the smells, the sounds, the characters are showing up. Again, if this is too fast, don't worry about it, where the subconscious is hearing everything and is processing it appropriately. And you play through it a few times and you teleport back into the seats, and then you teleport back into the video and you play it, and you play it, and you play it a few times, and it speeds up and you sort of see it. And every time it gets to the climax of that feeling, the screen whites out. So now you're going to go back into the projector and you're just going to go change something about the video. Let's say that we change the sounds, and we change the sounds of that to something maybe funny. Maybe it sounds more like Looney Tunes this time. And you watch the video change, but now the sounds are the ones that are playing these Looney Tunes sounds. Or maybe it's everyone speaking in a really low voice, and maybe everyone's speaking in a really high voice, but things are starting to change in the video. And now you decide to change the brightness. Maybe you make it really, really, really bright. Maybe you make it really, really, really dim. And as the video is, again, just constantly playing on loop, you maybe see the picture in black and white. Maybe you see it in cartoons, but you're starting to see that you have a way of changing this video. But again, at every time it seems like it's about to climax to that emotion, it whites itself out. And then you find yourself teleported back into the seats, and you realize that, okay, well, the feelings that you've had around this emotion are already kind of changed. They're already starting to change, but now we want to make a really big change. We realize that we kind of have control over this video now. What feeling would you have wanted to have way back when you were that age, when you were feeling that feeling of insignificance, of not being perfect, of whatever it was that first time? You get to direct this movie, so what lesson would you have wanted to learn? What would you have wanted to hear from someone that would have made everything feel okay? And go ahead and project that feeling onto the movie and see how the movie changes now that you're still seeing the events. The events still happen, but you're feeling that new feeling. You're feeling that different feeling. And if you're really feeling like, bold, maybe go ahead and slap on your anchor of your 10-year self and see if you can replace that feeling with whatever that 10-year self feeling is. And you play through that movie a few times. Now, we're going to go ahead and have you float up over your timeline and just go ahead and imagine a circle. And When we first got to this feeling, that circle was red, but now it's a nice green, a nice pleasant green now that we've got this feeling. I want you to look forward in your timeline. I want you to sort of walk through your timeline and imagine 3 memories where that feeling that originally was negative has sort of shifted, where you react to the memory a little bit differently now that you've got this new belief sort of shifted. And as you walk through the timeline, you're seeing yourself sort of grow up. You're growing older and older and over, and you end up back in present day, and you look back at your past, and all the memories associated with that first negative belief are just a little bit shifted. Things feeling a little bit better. Right now, we'll have you go ahead and look at your future. Look at that path, that imaginary path, all the way to your 10-year self. And maybe it looks a little bit easier now. Maybe the things that would have caught you up on the way to that paths are a little bit smoother. Maybe there's a forest, the trees are a little bit more spread apart, but things that would have tripped you up with that feeling aren't as much of a problem anymore. And go ahead and have you take one more deep breath. Go ahead and open your eyes. All right, y'all. That concludes the session for today. Hope that felt good. This is really what the work is going to be. A lot of the left brain creative stuff with 3-2-1s and polarity maps and world building, and then mixing it with these closed eye processes that can help us sort of integrate the information that we uncover while we introspect. So if you got someplace to be, this is totally your time where you can just say sayonara. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions. And this time, I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody so you can ask whatever questions that you want, or you can unmute yourselves. Let's see.
Question.
Yes.
So if I want to do a 3-2-1 on stagnancy, you used yourself as a teenager as an example, and TBH, when I actually look at my life, I don't see myself as very stagnant ever. Like, it's really hard for me to see, like, maybe one time stoned on the couch when I was 13, but I can't like hold on to that. Like, I'm not actually a stagnant person, but doesn't mean I don't have like a negative charge with stagnancy or feel like I'm stagnant because I'm not moving as efficiently and effectively as I'd like to. But then I also look at it and I see like that I'm in the first year of my business and I'm kind of in an expected place. So anyway, I want to hold on to it. I want to work on the stagnancy material that I have, but it's not really working for that to be me.
For sure.
So can I just make it someone else or make it look like whatever I want to? Can it be a limb?
Yeah.
Can it be a digestive tract? Can it be?
It can be whatever you want that you can meaningfully personify. One of the easiest ones that I use is either someone in my life that represents that. Usually, if you're a stagnant person, if you're not a stagnant person, but you're trying to like work through stagnancy, whoever gives you like the strongest, most negative, stagnant charge is probably a good person to do that for. And if for whatever reason you happen to be a lucky person and you don't have anyone that charges you like that, pop culture, like think about a movie, think about a character who has dealt with stagnancy, but just anything that allows you to tag to that charge will be a good thing to work with. Yeah, that's a really great question. Is that like I used myself because that's what popped to mind first, but whatever lets you connect meaningfully to whatever you're trying to work with is the best for that. Thanks for that question. Anybody else?
Go again.
Go again.
Okay, so you had us establish characters from the 10 things getting in the way, or from the 5 things getting in the way, or something.
Yes.
And so now we have these 5 characters, and you mentioned that you don't have this, it's not like a perfect system yet, but so for example, when I'm in my 3-2-1, how does my character or one of my 5 characters relate to the 3-2-1 template?
That's a perfect question as well. So when you're trying to learn more about like your five characters, which again will be based on sort of overcoming again those five things that are getting stuck in the way, you can 3, 2, 1 either to those characters where you, Jojo, would be dialoguing with the character, or, and this is a slightly more advanced one, maybe I'd get a little bit more practice with 3, 2, 1 before you do this, but this is totally valid and can be really powerful. You can dialogue as the characters. So like the entire 3, 2, 1, you take on the position of that character, and then you might do a 3, 2, 1 as that character, either with one of its internal parts or with something that it's sort of interacting with in its world.
So
So
I can choose financial ethical dilemma, and then I can
mhm.
be financial ethical dilemma and answer the questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the 3, 2, 1 allows you to take whatever perspective is meaningful. Most of the time, we just show up as ourselves.
You
But
did that.
yeah, but
I mean,
over
you
but
did that.
over time, you can like
You
I'm
actually
taking a part of myself as an object, or I can take someone outside of me as an object, or I could take, say, a D&D character from years ago, do a 3, 2, 1 with another character in that world as that character to see how that character conceives of its reality around them. So it's very flexible, but it can get a little complicated. So I'd say whenever you're in doubt, start with yourself first. And then if you want to go into like depth and learn like the nuances of a part, you can then dig deeper by changing the perspective of who is basically like the
right.
top identity.
The goal of this is something I have achieved already
Mm,
using other techniques. So I'm simply trying to understand this technique. But the
mm.
actual where we're going with discovering a part or even integrating a part is something I have a lot of experience with.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so it's just interesting because I'm just like, oh, I'm using a template for this thing that I've
Mhm, mhm.
literally done like on a hike or in my own journal work or using my own techniques.
Oh yeah, and again, this is it's one of those many paths to Rome things. And what I've found with like a lot of
Yeah,
these different techniques, one of my favorite that we're going to talk about sort of in later weeks is what's it called? Voice dialogue. That's going to be some really fun stuff where like we all kind of have these sub personalities that are like kind of standard across just everybody, and having everyone kind of build characters off of those that we know are going to show up no matter what is kind of a fun thing. But there are people that are
yeah,
just doing voice dialogue that don't role play at all and don't even know that they're role playing, that are getting so much benefit out of it. So it's really cool to kind of see
exactly.
how they
That
all
don't even know they're role playing. That's a really good way of putting it. Are we gonna like do this together ever?
how so, like
Like I'm interested. I feel like we're creating a role playing game with ourselves, but I want to do this with other people.
oh, that is a, so I don't know about this group specifically, but that's something that I really want to explore, especially for people that are kind of in the same location or can it be able to run games. This, we're now at this
That's what
point
I
just talking
want.
about like kind of meta
Yeah.
theory of what happens if you collectively build a world with a bunch of accountability partners, build characters together that are the things that you're trying to work on together, and then you
Yeah, yeah.
run games together almost like a group therapy but also like collective creative thing.
To be
That's the
honest,
top of the mountain. That would be
that's
amazing.
kind of like what 12 step is, just to be honest. But
Yeah.
not so this because like I mean even just like a fun thought would be like, okay, what if we all like went and created, let's say we all agree that we all procrastinate, and then we all, when we do a 3 2 1 with procrastination, and then we do a session where all of our procrastination, what they look like, what they feel like, how they answer the questions, all walk in together and they get to see how they look to each other.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
And then we can bring in other parts that like, you know, look at, then we can bring other parts like integrity or like sustainability or playfulness that then look at those parts that all look at procrastination together and are like, like I don't know if that's sustainable, like or
Hmm.
like
I like it. It's
yeah.
almost like a role played group therapy for procrastination, which could be a really fun closed eye process. Now that you even say it, I'm like, oh yeah, I already see it kind of in my head.
And then defensiveness can come in and be like, don't you pick on procrastination, he's fine just the way he is. Anyway,
I like that.
I could go on.
All right. Oh, that's amazing. Any other questions? Again, totally feel free to email me. I just wanted to give that space because it's a lot of content. So next week, and I'll send a follow-up email. Next week,
Oh.
we're going to work on
Wendell.
Someone's talking.
Oh, yes, Spike.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you just go back to the part for what you wrote of like, what would you have to focus on to forget that this isn't a problem?
Yes.
Because those were the ones that I kind of missed.
For sure. So that is, yeah.
At
So
the bottom.
So these are the bottom half. So what's the problem? How do you know that it's a problem? What's not a problem? And then what would you have to focus on to forget that this isn't a problem? Which is a weird thing that people don't normally say, but when phrased that way, it's like it kicks out epiphanies where you're like, oh yeah, I'm totally just like.
But I guess
this exists this is in the document, just so you know. This is in the big document, the playbook. Sorry.
Oh yeah, were you saying?
I don't understand like how the things that you wrote are like an answer to that, because it's like, aren't those things like what are driving those feelings that you had? So
Yeah.
I guess it's like I just don't understand how those are answer to that question.
Yeah. So I guess to sort of explain it for me, that was myself in that space, I guess that 16-year-old self recognizing that if there are parts of my life that aren't a problem, when I focus on the problems that I do have, like there's a reason for that. And they're not necessarily rational. And that's, I think, why sometimes it can be hard to like make sense out of it. But they'll make sense for you. Like when I wrote them out, I was like, even as I was doing, I was like, yeah, these are the things. And these are some of the things that I'm still doing, which is focusing on what I don't have is spending mental energy on not looking at the thing that I do have, which is amazing friends. I'm too busy being annoyed at the environment and not focusing on that. And I forget that I don't have a friend. And this is where the double negative gets weird. By focusing on a problem, I forget about the things that aren't problems for me. And so focusing on people aren't treating me the way that I want is something that's basically telling me this is what's fueling the charge. This is what's fueling the procrastination charge. Every unit of attention that I spend on that part is keeping me away from enjoying what it is in that reality that I already have. So again, it's not so much that like the answer ends up being like logically sound. It's really just like once you start pulling away the Jenga pieces of whatever the problem is, it tends to collapse around exactly that inflection point where it's just like, okay, what does it take for you to continue to have this as a problem just from a perceptual standpoint? And that's the question that makes Jenga Tower fall, where it goes, oh, shoot, yeah, I guess if I just focused on what I actually wanted to focus on, I wouldn't have the problem of being annoyed by everything that I'm focusing on.
So it's kind of like the issues that you're ignoring that are actually causing this problem.
Yeah. And yeah, that's one of the powerful things about these questions is that, again, it ends up pulling stuff almost like from off stage, where it's like, why am I here? Why am I on the stage? Oh, because I hate everything that I'm not looking at, but I know enough is there that's forcing me to stay in the conscious space.
It's still full.
Wendell?
Yeah. What was that?
So in the template, in the third person, it says, what do they look like? So you're describing it. What do you feel about them? What do I feel about that character or that part? And then what do you like? Now I am the part. What do you dislike? I'm still the part. What do you think they feel about you? So what does the part think that everyone else? What is wait, what do you dislike?
Yeah, in that third person, you stay there. It just, again, when you see someone on the street, like those are the things that you think about them. Even though like there might be things that are invisible, you can still take a third person perspective and think about what someone's feeling. Like I see an old lady down the street, I'm like, I wonder
you can, but you're doing it to yourself, so it just gets a little confusing.
Yes, and that's
or to your own imagination. Yeah,
exactly, and that's where
it's goofy,
but that's where the power comes from.
So here's what I need. what do other people think? What do other people think about them? Got that part. And then what problems do they cause for you? So is that, what problems is the part causing me, or what problems do other people thinking and feeling about the part cause the part?
Ooh, so by intent, it is what is the problem that the part is causing for me? But the way that you just brought that up, I'm like, actually, that's a valid question too, but it's just not what I was thinking of when I wrote it down. Yeah, the trick with a lot of these things is that, like, because it's such a flexible framework, like, you can ask it any damn question. Like, the ones I chose were just ones that are, like, nice to
stuff's coming up. It's working.
But yeah, that's actually a really good one that I never thought about, that, like, hit me where I was like, oh yeah, that's grammatical. That is definitely a thing that you could ask it.
Yeah. It'd probably be helpful to choose, like a meta self title.
Yeah, actually, that's going to be something we'll get into later as well.
The game of life.
Start focusing on the, eventually it's going to be very clear that there's a dungeon master self and player self that emerges. But we don't go to those directly because it's hard to start there. But eventually you'll start to realize the self that's doing a lot of that observing is really its own separate self as well.
That too, at least one. But like, what people can start off knowing is that they have themselves, and they can think of that as me, or they can choose something else, since everything is referring to itself as me, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I mean,
anyway, this is great.
Crazy that it makes sense.
I'm having fun.
Like, oh yeah, it totally makes sense to me.
I love this. This is great.
All right.
I'm getting to, it's just so casually like unveiling the shadow. It's just like,
yep.
Please leave me alone to suffer. It's like, oh,
no,
who's
we're gonna
that
work
speaking?
together now. That's great. All right. Any last questions before we call it a night? Thanks, you guys, for sticking around, and thank you for your engaging questions. It's really been really, what do you call it? It's helped my thoughts. Like, I love this work because even just hearing how people are thinking about it can help me work through stuff.
Sure. I don't really have any questions, but I do just want to say thank you, and this is really fun. And I thought that random encounters analogy is super awesome.
Yeah.
Just think about, like, you're just going through your day, and then all of a sudden something happens, and I feel a certain way, and I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I can run from this, or I can catch it, or I can just kill it. So it's really interesting. I like it.
I'm so glad. I just beat Pokemon Sun and Sword and Shield today.
Nice.
All right, y'all. I'm calling it. Wait, yes.
Wendell, I've been putting things in Google Sheets. If you want it, I can share it with you, but will you delete the parts that are my personal stuff?
Oh, I mean, yes, but what if you did that and then just sent me the one where it's already deleted, so I don't have to see your dirty draw?
Oh, okay. Because that would be more
totally
work for me,
too.
and I don't care if you see it.
Okay, if it would help you for me to see it, it's cool.
No,
I'm
it's like this. Look,
to...
I could share it. I just want to share it with you. Okay, we can. I guess I just want to share it with you, and then you can make a copy of it, and then I can unshare my personal one.
Gotcha. Yeah. That'll do it. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Okay.
Alrighty. Night, y'all.
All right, thanks.
You're so welcome. Bye.